Down Books. My name is Amber.
And my name is Shaylee. We are so glad you're with us today. Oh, it's been a fun launch, you guys. We're into our 4th episode now, which is just crazy, which means a full month's worth of podcasts. And thank you to everyone who's been supporting us.
Absolutely. And thank you to all of the authors as well. Your books have been outstanding. And this has just been a wonderful journey that Shaylee and I have gotten to be able to go on, along with being able to meet authors as well, which is always fun.
Yeah, and you guys get to meet one of our authors today. We will have SK Horton joining us, talking about The Concealed in just a little bit here. So stay tuned for that. We're very excited to connect with her and learn a little bit more.
Absolutely. And now last episode, we went over how we rate books. Shaylee, can you give us a brief little update or a brief little overview as to how the Quill system works?
Yes, for sure. So we, if you'll notice in our logo, we have a quill that is kind of on the spine of the book of our logo. And we just loved the idea of the writing, the old time writing, and how things started when people first started writing. It was all by hand. And so with the quills, a lot of people give stars and stuff like that for their rating. We decided to be a little different and give quills and create our own rating system. And so that includes plot twists, world building and setting, character depth, emotional impact, unputdownability. And then Amber and I each have a bonus quill. Amber gives a bonus quill for exceptional wit or standout dialogue, and I give a bonus quill for themes of loyalty, love, or clever mystery. And so it has been fun to kind of start putting that into play. We decided that it gets a little bit crazy trying to do the whole rating system on the podcast. So what we will be doing is giving you our overall rating out of 25 for each book. And then you can see the breakdown of it in our show notes at the end of the episodes.
Also take note that the bonus quills do not count in that 25 quills.
Well, kind of. So
they count over and above. So it'll boost that score.
True. If someone gets a perfect 25 out of 25 and then our bonus quills, they're getting 27 out of 25, which is
star material right there.
That's star material. That's star quality.
All right. So we are going to do a quick little overview of SK Horton's book, The Concealed. And so I'm going to read the back of the book. And if you can see the spine right there as well.
If you're watching on YouTube.
Yep, for those watching on YouTube as well. It is an absolutely beautiful book. And I am also jealous that we don't get to keep that.
Nope.
But that'll be talked about later as well. All right. The back of the book reads, sometimes destiny is written. Hers was concealed. When Kate travels from Oregon to university in England, she expects her gravest dilemma to be finding coffee instead of tea. But she's got bigger problems, much bigger. At Staten University, nothing is quite what it seems, even her own identity. Unbeknownst to Kate, a prophecy deems her as destined to defeat a ruthless enemy in a magical land, placing a target squarely on her back. Now, someone on campus is stalking her, and a narrow escape sends her through a mysterious portal assisted by 2 exceptionally irresistible boys. Yet, the fantastical new world is even more treacherous, with rival kingdoms and imminent war. Falling in love wasn't part of the plan, but what's a girl to do? A fresh start was all she wanted. A few new friends in the dorms with a trusty latte in hand, not war, an estranged biological father who is king, or a star-crossed love straight out of Romeo and Juliet. Hopefully without the dying part. As the battle looms, Kate must solve the mystery of the prophecy and decide who in her circle is trustworthy before the place she now calls home is destroyed.
So that's just the blurb, you guys, and that drew me in right away. Amber and I talked about, we love a good romantic-y novel book. This falls right into that category. We have a little bit of the fantasy land, definitely a love triangle of romance. And this book really got me excited. I also love it because a lot of newer books don't have audiobooks, but this one does. And so I listened to it as well. And it's a great audiobook. It's very well read by the person that read it. I don't know who was the audiobook reader, but
I think you call them like voice actors.
yeah, there we go.
So my thoughts on the book before we bring on SK Horton is that if you love Lauren Roberts' Powerless, then welcome to the Concealed. You get dragons, romance, policy. Like I love the court policy that comes with it, and the courtly politics. The concept of being whisked away to another world, that's always been appealing to me, just to disappear from my world and go into another one. I love the clean romantasy aspect. It's very hard nowadays to find a clean romantasy.
Mm-hmm.
And then I absolutely love that in regards to the world building aspect, she was just as confused as we were half the time. And so like her real world questions were my real world questions and were getting answered within the book.
Yeah.
And so we were in the world building real time with her.
I also loved, so for those who don't know, Amber and I live in Washington State near Seattle. And so this book starts out in Oregon.
Yeah, in Portland.
In Portland, Oregon, which is only about 2 hours south of us. And so it's very close to home book, and yes. The weather is talked about and stuff like that. It was just very relatable.
I highlighted 2 of my favorite quotes that literally were just about the weather in Oregon, and because I went to school in Oregon as well. So the first quote that I absolutely loved was, "A person couldn't live in the Northwest their whole life and be afraid of getting a little wet."
We were in a downpour today, so it's very relatable.
I could not see like 20 feet in front of me as I was driving in because the amount of rain that was falling down. The next is, "The familiar, earthy smell of new rain was one of my favorites. I inhaled deeply, enjoying the momentary wash of childhood memories mixed with a pang of homesickness."
Yeah, I feel that. And I've traveled around a lot as a wedding photographer and been to many different states. And there's nothing quite like the Pacific Northwest. So it's it felt close to home, which I appreciated.
It did. All right. Are we ready?
Yeah, let's go ahead and welcome Stephanie, the author of Concealed, to go ahead and join us. Hi, Stephanie.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us.
We're so glad you're here. Amber and I talked to you a little bit before we started this call and just told you how much we adored your book. And we're excited to let you introduce it a little bit more to our listeners. The first thing we're kind of curious about is your writing journey. What inspired you to start writing?
So my day job is I'm a radiologist, a physician. At the time, I was working quite a few nights, and I just felt like I really wanted a creative outlet. And I am not particularly good at art or craftiness or anything like that, but I thought about what I really love to do and I like to read, right? I love books. And so I thought, well, let me just give it a shot. So at first it was just really a hobby. And at the time, my 2 daughters were pretty young. So I was kind of surrounded by castles and princesses and all these sorts of things, which I think was inspiration. And so it was just an outlet, and it was a hobby. And then I found other writing friends with a writing group, which was amazing. One of them's an editor, which was really helpful to kind of teach me what to do because I was a science major, not an English major.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of learning to do, which was good. And so that was the beginning. And then gradually, once I finished it and edited it and was trying to get it published, it became kind of more obsession than hobby, right? And that's kind of how it is now as well. It's been great.
That's awesome.
I love that.
And we're talking about your first book in a series today, right? How many books are in this series?
There will be 3.
Okay.
There will be. So the second one, The Captured, comes out March 25th of this year, of 25, March 25th. And the last one, the third one, I'm writing now. So
Oh, yeah, I'm so excited.
I'm working hard at
I
it.
cannot wait to read the second.
I've had some feedback already, and people are like, "So when's number three?" I'm like, I know, I'm
I'm on
trying.
it.
I'm trying to work on top of writing. I can't do all the things.
Yeah.
I know, trying to do all the things. Yes.
So, something that I love to kind of get into authors' brains about, are there any like fun quirks or things that, fun facts, your process for creating characters? Like, do you have anything fun in that? Or do you relate them to other people you know? Like, what's the process?
Yeah, I think my process has changed as I go along because I really didn't know what I was doing in the first place, right? And then I kind of, figured it out. And I think I'm more of kind of a pantser where I write as I go along, but I do like to have an ending in mind. So I have a very rough outline. And then I think the best characters just come to me. They come as they are. I did write a murder mystery, and before I started there, I did sketch out every character, and I had like, what are their secrets? What are they trying to hide? All that kind of thing. I think it depends on the kind of book you're writing, I think is what's helpful. But I do definitely have in mind what my character's deep wants are. I think that's really important to know them, but I don't know if I realized I knew it until later,
That's
like as
cool.
I
Yeah.
was figuring it out. But now I do. Now I'm very clear on it.
The thing that I love about that question is it's a different answer from every author. And I think that's so cool, is that everyone has such a different process for developing the people that make their stories. So super cool. Thank you for sharing. Do you have advice for aspiring writers?
Yeah, I mean, you just have to start somewhere, right? And so my advice is to just start getting words on a page and see how you feel about them. Um, and then find other writers, and that can be difficult. I actually used Meetup, which is kind of a national, maybe even worldwide, I'm not sure, to find writers group in my community. And there will be some posted, and that's what I ended up using. And then eventually I kind of found my writer family, and I have my own writers group in my house. We meet like every other week. But I think a critique group and critique partners are very, very helpful. Because there's a lot to know that you don't know, that you don't know, I guess.
Yeah.
And I think it's really helpful to have other people there that maybe are more knowledgeable than you.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I love that you guys all meet together and are able to also maybe even do some like creative bounce offs with each other.
Yeah. Amber and I even recently have been putting together our own little book club, and we also have a study group for some other stuff that we do, and it's always great to have other people to go along with, and it helps with accountability too.
Yes, for sure. There were definitely times in this journey where I might not have made it if I didn't have other people, with a place to go.
Well, I know for me, for one, like I'm really glad that you made it through because I love the book. And so
Thank you.
I have a question for you about developing the overall themes of your book. Like when you come through the whole writing and creativity process and you're trying to pick out the themes for your book as to how it's going to develop or through the whole creativity aspect, how do you come up with, is it like real world, like this is what I'm going through, so I'm going to like relate this to something I've been through, or is it, hey, like maybe I'll spin this into it? How do you come up with the overall like creativity aspects of it other than just with your writing group?
Yeah. So, I think like for Kate, my main character, I wanted someone relatable. I like to say that I adore Katniss Everdeen, but I'm a PETA. I'm going to make a ton of noise in the woods and, get caught or whatever,
Yeah.
right? Like I can't shoot an arrow, like, and so it's a little bit trendy right now to have these female main characters that I call them the stabby girls, right?
Yeah.
That and I love them too. It's not that I don't love them, but I wanted to see someone that I could see in myself, or my daughters could see in myself, in them themselves. And so I think that's where she came about, of what would happen if someone like me was put into this world that, is frankly like most teenagers, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
sure, there's some that know how to use a knife, but most of us, we're just book readers, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Most of us just want to escape to that world.
Yeah, exactly. So, I don't know if that answered your question,
It
but
did.
that answered,
How
but
old
that
are
is
your
how
girls, Stephanie?
they are now 13 and 15.
Have they read your book?
Yes, they've definitely read my book. My younger one's a little bit bigger of a reader than my older one, and she actually helped beta read the second one. She brainstorms with me.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, it's really fun. And right now, one of her friends like asked for my book for Christmas, and she's been like texting updates. And
Oh my
oh, I
gosh.
love Daniel. No, I love Lucas, and it's like so. I really like it. I love that they have friends that are reading it too.
Literally, Shaylee and I reading the book. Oh my gosh.
I know, we text each other while we're reading books because we're reading them at the same time. And Amber's a faster reader than me, and so she's normally ahead of me in the reading. But this time I had finished the book before her, just with
How
the
the
Crazy
schedule's
Lives. Yeah. And so this time I got to be on the other end that Amber's usually on for me. And so it was kind of funny to be getting Amber messaging me. Oh my gosh, Daniel. Oh my gosh, Lucas.
I was like, Daniel, how could you?
It was really fun.
If you know, you know.
Yeah.
So something that Amber really likes to talk about is the world building aspect of things. And so, Amber, do you have any specific questions regarding the world building, or what were your thoughts on it?
So first off, I love that you were like, hey, I want to be able to create a character that is like me plopped into a book, because as my husband very well knows, I cannot walk down a hall without finding every single creak in the floor. I am the lumbering PETA right alongside you. And so I loved the idea of being like, all right, and plop, now you're like sucked out of your world and put in a brand new one. How did the creativity aspect of that new world come to be?
So I think some of it is just the other reading I was doing at the time, which was other YA fantasy, but also I really enjoy Regency romance as well. And so you can kind of see that I based that world a little bit on that time period. And I explain how that works because they went back and forth in the portal and things kind of slowed down. They weren't able to go as often. So they're a little bit like kind of stuck in kind of that time period where, women don't really have as much say as they'd like and things like that. Of course, there's differences, but
I also love that you had a very outspoken woman as the main, and she's like, what is going on here? Y'all are living in the dark ages.
Like, I want to wear my man pants, she said. Like, why am I not wearing pants?
I have some really close girlfriends who grew up in a religion where they were not allowed to wear pants growing up. And it's so funny to me because now all they wear is pants most of the time because they were stuck in skirts and dresses their entire childhood. And so they're always in leggings and jeans now. And it cracks me up because that's where my brain was going when Kate was having those same mindset.
Oh, my favorite was literally the battle when she's like, no, jeans and my sweatshirt. I'm like, same girl. I'm not gonna wear a dress.
Oh my god. Yeah. So, Stephanie, what is your favorite genre to read when you're not writing?
So I do read within genre.
Okay.
Probably most I'm YA fantasy, but I love a rom-com, which I think you can probably see that there are some rom-com elements in the concealed. I do like my Regency romance, and I like a mystery every once in a while. So I read fairly broadly, but I like to make sure I know what's going on in my own category as well.
She's right under our umbrella of what we talk about here too. I
Yeah.
love that. We have romance, romantasy, fantasy, and then some mystery in there as well. So very close area.
Absolutely.
I like to read to escape, really, is my
Yeah,
goal.
same.
That's our goal as well. We just want to read.
Have fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's our life outside of actually doing work and life and things like that. It's like, hey, what are you reading now? What are you reading now? And that's usually the question that we get to ask each other 24/7 now.
Yeah.
What is your favorite quote that you have in the book? I know one of them you have posted on social media as one of your favorite, or as possibly one of your favorites, but it was one of mine as well. And I saw it come out, or I read it, highlighted it, and then it came out on your social media like a few days later, and I was like, oh my goodness.
Oh, there it is. Yeah. Oh gosh. I love the one where Daniel's saying that now it's like flown out of my head, of course, where Daniel's kind of professing how much he loves her. By every time you leave, well, now it's gone. It's gone. You asked me.
Sorry.
And no, that's okay. Like, I think it's on Amazon actually. And then I love the one where she's talking about wearing a mask and having to dress up and be beautiful as a princess to go out and meet the world for the first time, and how everyone, even in this world, has to don a mask, but hopes that someone sees underneath.
No,
Yeah.
absolutely. That was one of my favorite quotes, or my favorite parts as well. I'll say parts because that was like, I didn't want to read the whole like paragraph that came of it, but that was definitely one of my favorite parts. I highlighted the page on that one. But my two other favorite quotes that I had were: expectations can't be avoided, whether you succeed or fail. You can't spend time worrying about what others see. Instead, focus on what you know to be true in yourself. And then my other favorite quote was: family can be a strength, but if you don't let go and seek your own destiny, you will be left behind, grasping at their dreams, not yours. I was like, oh, how powerful is that? Like, how often are we trying to live in the shadow of other people's expectations?
Yeah, all the time.
And so instead of going out and seeking what we want to do ourselves.
Yeah.
So I appreciate both of those quotes because those are now written forever on my quote wall. So thank you as well for those.
Well, thank you. Good. I know it's hard to choose.
So
I think that family one, it's really hard to separate too.
It is.
So I think it's something good to think about.
No, absolutely. And it's very relatable as well in regards to that. And I definitely think, as I know for me, I have two boys, and they are quite a bit younger than your girls right now. But I know for me, I want that for them as well, to be able to go out and seek their own will, their own way, and be able to create their own path, not live up to what I'm expecting of them or what they imagine me to be expecting of them as well. So, and I think that's just so powerful. So,
Yeah, true.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
Stephanie, you mentioned earlier Hunger Games brought Katniss and Peeta into it.
Yes.
So I'm curious, was Suzanne Collins one of your influences? Do you have any other influential authors that have spoken into you?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I was a little maybe stunted in my reading growth because I went to college, as most people do at 18. And then I was very, very focused on getting into medical school and then doing that and then doing residency. And I didn't finish until I was 32. And I really hardly read a book for fun, just a few here and there that entire time, because the focus was elsewhere. And so then it's almost like I was a teenager again when a lot of these fun books were coming out, when Hunger Games came out and Twilight, and I read collection series and all those sorts of things, even though I was in my 30s at that point, right? And so I think all of that kind of like what we would call now throwback YA almost
Yeah.
was inspiration for me. And because they're just fun, right?
Yeah,
They are.
that's so funny. That's so relatable for me because on our first episode, I talked a little bit about it. I took like a 10-year break from reading just because life took me elsewhere and I was doing different things. But I was around for Twilight was huge for me. Definitely read the Hunger Games books. Like all of that was part of my growing up. And then I read Cassandra Clare's Mortal Instruments series. And then there was like this big gap and break. And Jodi Picoult was another big one for me that I loved reading her books. Big gap of not reading. And then I just started reading again April of 2024. And
Oh,
yeah, and then in
I think I dragged her
2024,
back into it.
yeah. Well, no, it was actually my friend Hannah, but that's how you and I connected was
Yeah.
through it. But we ended up, I set a goal. I'm like, you know what? I'm just not going to watch TV. And I ended up reading 68 books between April and December of 2024.
oh.
And so I felt like a teenager again. So I just really resonate with what you just said. 'Cause I'm like,
Yeah.
I feel like a kid again. It's so fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I had a medical crisis that kind of popped me out from being able to read. And so I had a traumatic brain injury and was down and out for the count. And so for me, reading really came back in, and I found out that I could read again at the beginning of this year. At the beginning of last year, 2024.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's last year. I'm still figuring out how things work. And so last year I ended up reading 220 books.
Wow.
Yeah, that's insane. She's crazy. She's not of this world. I think that she's one of the fantasy characters dropped in here. I don't know.
I said goodbye
No,
to my traumatic brain injury.
Yeah, absolutely. Bring in the year, right?
So,
I know. I think that's like the only thing I don't like about writing is that I read less because I
Yeah.
have less time, right?
no,
Yeah.
it's so hard to even find time, especially when you have a family and work and other activities that either your family's involved in or you're involved in, and like the schedule just gets full and you're like, where do I find time to be able to do the things that I love, which include reading, or in your case, also writing?
Well, and
It's
on top of the writing, editing, what are your feelings on the editing process? Is that a part of your process that you thoroughly enjoy, or is it a struggle for you?
I'm kind of weird and I do enjoy the editing. I like it. I really like finding that perfect sentence, crafting the right verb I want to use, and I think it's fun. I think it's I don't drafting. I know that it's not very good, and so sometimes it's like hard because I'm like, oh, this isn't very good, but I got to keep going.
Yeah.
So then the editing process makes it turn into, that butterfly that it's supposed to be. So I do like that part.
The beautiful finished product. And are you self-published or do you have a publisher?
I have a publisher, Athon Books. They are kind of small, medium. They focus quite a bit on like traditional fantasy, and they do lit RPG and comics and some things. And then just this year, 2024, they decided to dive into romantasy. And so they picked up my book and signed me through a 3-book deal. So it's been great.
That's awesome. That's so fun.
Yeah.
We, excuse me, we've talked a lot about how you're finding more and more self-published authors. And some of the authors that we've talked to have said it's really hard to get in with publishers now just because of the competition, and so many people are writing these days because there's a lot more outlets to be able to do it, I think, than there used to be. But it's really cool that you have that publisher. Well, and do you feel like there's any, what's it called? Like, benefits or, things that have come a little bit easier because you have a publisher?
Yeah, I mean, and every publisher is kind of different, right? So I'm not one of the big 5, and so they don't have big print runs or anything. And so getting my books into brick and mortar, like Barnes or Noble is much more difficult. It doesn't really happen. So that's kind of the same as indie, as self-published. But the things that have worked really well are they have an advertising budget. They
There
help
you
design
go.
my cover. Yes. They help do marketing. They help do, they did my cover. They are my editors, all those sorts of things. And so it's been really great. Of course, I get less royalties than someone who's self-publishing, but I've had someone help me through all these things. I don't format my own books or anything like that.
That's nice.
Yes.
So, as we are nearing the end of this interview, is there anything that listeners would be excited to learn about you that maybe they'd have no idea?
I don't know. We talked about me being a doctor. I used to be in the military.
Okay. What branch were you in?
I was in the Air Force. I was a doctor in the Air Force. But I think the main thing with me, and maybe it's not a surprise, is that I'm just really passionate about books for teens. And I think it's that age group that starts to drop off, and you either are reading that Twilight or you're, on your phone.
Yeah,
And
especially today.
yeah, and I just really want to create those lifelong readers and create escapist reads for them. So I spend a lot of time reading those sorts of books and helping the kids' school get some of those books, and it's been amazing journey for me as an author to be able to help out in that way as well. But so indie young adult authors have a little bit of a harder time because we do have to sell to the parent or the bookstagrammer, whoever it is choosing. And sometimes without that brick and mortar stores, it's more difficult to get it to teens.
Yeah.
So recommend your indie books to your public library, those sorts of things. See what you can do to get them into teens' hands.
Yeah.
Because that's what I'm passionate about, and I love my adult readers, but I just want those kids reading.
I love that.
Absolutely.
I love that so much. You don't hear that too often, so it's really cool. Do you have any last thoughts about The Concealed that you'd want to share with listeners, or anything that pulls on your heart with this book specifically?
I think we talked about it some, that I just really wanted someone relatable for an escapist read. I like to describe it sometimes as Princess Diaries meets Lion Witch of the Wardrobe. I think it's just very relatable for kids and adults. It's just a fun read, and I do sneak in mental health with her anxiety struggles, and I sneak in those little moments about making your own path. But the focus of the book is really fun.
That's awesome. Well, super exciting. You have provided us a book to give to one special listener as a giveaway book. We're so excited. It's actually the book sitting behind us on our bookshelf for those that are watching on YouTube. We are going to be putting it on our social media right after this episode airs, and have ways for people to get that. And so we'll put all the giveaway information on social media, so be looking out for that. And then so you go by SK Horton as your author name. So that's the name to look for. And it's The Concealed. And where can people follow you?
I'm most active on Instagram
Perfect.
at author SK Horton. And I have a website, skhorton.com. I'm also on, TikTok, but probably most prominent on Instagram.
Perfect. So we will be putting all of these links for social media, as well as her where you can buy her book, in our show notes. So look for those at the end of this episode. And with that, we are going to say goodbye, Stephanie. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you guys for having me. It's been really fun. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. It's been great talking with you. So we went through the Quill system, and we gave The Concealed an overall Quill rating of 22 out of 25 quills.
Yes, this book was one that both of us thoroughly enjoyed. Both of us gave our bonus quills to this one as well, because It was just one of those books that we can put down. It definitely had that unputdownability factor to it. It was a quick read because it kept you so clutched.
Oh yeah, and to be 100% frank, I completely forgot that my bonus quill was for the dialogue aspect. And then I'm like, where do I put my favorite quotes? And Shaylee's like, are you giving it your bonus quill? And I'm like, oh, 100% I am. Like, I have to be able to share these quotes. Like, they're great. And so it was quite entertaining on that aspect as well. So it was a no-brainer for us in regards to the overall rating.
Yeah, so we'll be adding that to our show notes as well, the rest of the layout of the quills and what got rated what on our end. And we would love for you guys to share with us how many quills that you rate the book after you read it as well. With that, we have our highlight of the week. So Amber, do you want to talk about our book highlight for this week?
Absolutely. Our book highlight is My Boss is the Devil by Shenkman. What's better than being a college dropout, 20-something, working as a barista in New Haven, Connecticut? Wow. Sorry, my brain just died on that one. What's better than being a college dropout, 20-something, working as a barista in New Haven, Connecticut? Just about anything. Nick would give anything to escape the dead-end life he's made for himself. He gets the offer of a lifetime from Lucifer himself to trade his apron for a suit. Should he really consider becoming an agent of the devil? With the way things are going for Nick, of course he should. Lucifer wants to give Nick a chance to do what he always wanted, to help people. Wielding power and influence to make their dreams come true, he would have to sell his soul. But the devil is a gambling man and lets Nick experience his new life before he has to sign on the dotted line. Can he use the devil's power for good and make his mark on the world? Or will he fall victim to his own desires and lose his humanity? As if that wasn't enough, the very friend that made the meeting with Lucifer possible turns on Nick, and he needs to do some quick thinking to come out on top. Maybe the ends justify the means, but there are no easy answers. Finding a balance between good and evil is about to require a lot of coffee.
We've all had that boss.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't be in the working world and not have one boss that you're like, oh my gosh, this boss is horrid.
I mean, yeah. No, I feel that.
I'm lucky enough to love my boss right now, so I'm in a good place.
You're in a real good place. I think we both are on that aspect.
Yeah, definitely.
So overall thoughts on the book is that there are strong themes of good versus evil and ends justifying the means. The main character is exceptionally relatable. You're going through the whole thought process of, well, what would I do in this situation? And along the way, you're like, oh, hey, that's exactly what Nick does, which made it highly relatable and highly entertaining as well. It's very similar to the TV show Lucifer. So if you enjoy that show, it is a great, relatively quick read as well. I love the idea, I love the concept, and I'm excited to see what else Ben Shenkman has up his sleeve for the future. I know he has, I believe, 2 other books that are in this series so far. So it's been great to see those as well, and I'm excited to read those.
Awesome. Well, we are going to start wrapping up here, and we have our question of the week this week, which is book pet peeves. Mm-hmm. What are your book pet peeves? We want to talk about this next week on our episode, so message us, leave comments, whatever you choose to do. But we're thinking like some of the common ones are spines that don't align, or if the artwork changes too much, or when people dog-ear pages of books. And so everyone has their different... Amber's already going off.
Casually teething over here. Mine is when you go to like line up the books and you're like, oh, I have a complete set. And then you're looking at either the like writing on the spine of the book and you're like, they changed the font. Or you get a different edition of the book and it's like something has changed within it. Or I'm not kidding you, the whole splayed edges thing. Or the sprayed edges.
Amber. You got to save it for the next episode.
Dude, I can't, like, you're setting me off right now.
I know. She's passionate about these book pet peeves. So we want to hear your guys's. And we are excited to go over that at the beginning of our next episode. Thank you again to Stephanie for joining us. And a big thank you to Rob, our producer, for providing this beautiful studio space for us. He owns Romar Entertainment and Alethea Digital Media and has just made this all happen for us in such a big way. So with that, Amber, do you want to tease what's coming up?
All right, next episode, we are going to be talking about Divided by Amy Amok and Missy Campa.
So exciting. All right, you guys, don't forget to follow us at Two Bound Books on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Subscribe and like us, leave comments, anything you can do to be part of the conversation.
Absolutely, and please join us as well on our book club on Goodreads and on Fable.
All right, thanks for joining us today. My name is Shaylee.
And I'm Amber.
We'll see you next time.